All of a sudden it just popped out of my head. Sino Xaat Kil Sino Xaat Kil. And see, you have to use that ha sound in there with that X. Ha, ha. If you're asking about the weather, then it's hey, it's up a little bit higher. Haida. Sino Haida is that G with a line, it's up here. But when you use the word for Haida, it's the X down here. Sino Xaat Kil, way down here.
Like you got something stuck in your throat, huh?
Yeah. So it's really important that you get the right tone. And also, if you don't learn the rhythm of the language, for example, somebody might say, he was swimming and a barracuda bit him. Or the ship was going along, a submarine fired a torpedo and sunk it. A barracuda is really a barracuda.
Mm-hmm.
Torpedo is a torpedo. So if you get, sometimes you hear people speaking English, but they tend to put a French pronunciation on it. For example, here in Canada, people will use the word, in the States they'll say composite or composite. Yeah, composite. It's a composite of. But in Canada it's a composite. So it's a different rhythm. It's a different emphasis on those. And then also it's like, for example, my car is a Saab, S-A-A-B. That's how we use in Haida too. But here in Canada, it's called a Sam. Frank Sinatra, and his name is Sinatra, all and a. It doesn't make it incorrect. It's just that we say Sino dam Haida, Masid Casino dam Haida. We say Singai la. Masid says Casino Singay la. But the important part is when you get to la, you have to hold here la, not just la. La, la, la. You have to tighten the muscles. Yeah, I do have muscles there. Around your solar plexus. La. Sino, sinai, hedam. Hedam. Again, it's that rhythm. Sino, sinu. Because sin, if you just say sinu, you're saying also sin without the inflection. Sin is asking a question. How is something, or how are you, or something. But if I said dung sin to you, I'm saying you also. I'm asking if you also. If you ask me, if I say you dawala, and you might answer yes, dung sin. You'd ask me, and you also, dung sin. But if you said dung sin, then you're using the wrong word. So those vocal inflections are really important. Those tonal sounds. Many people that start learning it later, they don't really work at that pronunciation. For example, that newsletter from Skidegate, we would say, good people, Shingai la, how is it? Hadat las is, they're saying hadalas. Hadat las is. That's all you good people. When you introduce yourself and you speak to the group, the island is gan, the jostling is gan, las is. So actually the word I, the I can be my older brother or my older sister. Oh, and you also?
Ditla Oslam.
I was just, have a seat, we're just talking about the importance of correct pronunciation and also rhythm.
Yeah.
Because if you get the rhythm wrong, it gives a different meaning. What I was telling was like, if the voice goes up, sinu. But if I say dum sin, it's spelled the same, sin, but it doesn't, the vocal inflection doesn't goes up. So when I say dum sin, it means you also.
Oh,
But sinu is how are you or are you? It's a question.
yeah,
It's a different kind of question.
yeah.
So one of the others
Thank you.
too is some people listen to things and they take it as a criticism when it really isn't. Like the name we have for massive people, we call them how is a big bay, but how is body hair, or it can be the flesh of a deer or the flesh of a fish. So without that vocal inflection in there, and so some people just take shortcuts. See in here, how is without the vocal inflection going up for this big bay. How, that's that little G with a line under it. AW. How. But then if you're talking about body hair, not a mustache though, but just other hair on your body, or the flesh of a deer or flesh of fish, I think it is, then it's ho. But again, it's that with the hairball, that G line.
It's so subtle.
So most languages are like that. That's one of the reasons why I can't learn French. Is I can't hear all those sounds because I've had damage to my ears. But once you get used to it, and it's that line under the X also, and there's another X with a cap over it, like for fence. X becomes Lachin is X with a cap over the top. But if it's just an X, it's like Mexico. So it's, you got the different X's,
Right here,
and
yeah.
then the different K's, the 4 letter sounds of Raven.
Yeah.
Ka. See, it's back in your throat. Ka.
Ka.
You have to push your
Ka.
tongue back. Ka. Then there's ka and ka. Yeah. Ka.
Holy. So.
What my Xaat said, he spoke just about all the languages on the coast. He was a government translator.
Wow.
And he would laugh and say that Haida is the most difficult to learn. He said, first you gotta cough it up. Then you chew on it a little bit and spit it out. But see, we're linguistic isolate. Our language isn't related to anybody else's. And so even like our word for water, hunt, or is from Skiddy Dundle. Now the Tlingits to the northwest, their word is sheen for fresh water, but it's not the same. It's not just fresh water. What it is our villages were never built by flowing water. We got our water from springs underground. The one that, well, they had different names for them, but it refers to life coming out of the earth. Whereas the Tlingit and all the other peoples built their communities by flowing streams, because ours looked upon the San people as a very powerful people who made long journeys, and we didn't want to disturb them. But when it was time to accept their offer, that's what it's called. When they first show up, that's when there was a big ceremony. I don't remember the name of the place, the Haida name for it, but today on the chart it's called Cape Lookout. But thousands of Haidas used to gather there in the spring. And I think that was when the skunk cabbage is first beginning to show. March, I think, or April. And they would go to Cape Lookout, and then just before the raven cries, just as the sky is beginning to get light enough to where you can see objects, the canoes would go out and they would troll until just before the sun went down. And all the fish they caught that day, they would bring them in and lay them on the beach with the heads facing toward the east and the back to the north. They'd lay them all out on the beach. Well, they're facing inland, that's what it is. And there were songs, there were speeches to welcome them and to thank them for presenting themselves. We're accepting the gift. And there were songs and dances. And then once the initial welcome was done, then they would start cutting them open. And there were big pits. And they'd been fires that been burning all night, heating these rocks. And those pits, they would line the bottom with those rocks. And there was leaves, maybe it was, but anyway, there were supposed to be skunk cabbage leaves too, I think. So it was after the skunk cabbage got to a certain height. And they would put a layer of that, and then they would, I think they put a little bit of sand over the top, and then they put those, so it wouldn't burn. And then they put in a layer of fish, and then a layer of leaves, and so on, until they filled it all the way up to the top, but their posts stuck in the ground in different points. And then when it was all covered, they'd pull the post out and left a hole, and they'd pour seawater down on those hot rocks, and then plug it, and poured it over here, and poured it over there. And so they knew how much to do. It wasn't just pour it in there and leave it. But this would go on all night. While they're steaming these fish, they put different things inside the fish too, for flavoring. I don't remember. But in the morning, they would uncover the whole thing. They'd open it up, and everybody would eat. But they did, when they take the flesh off that salmon, they peel it off whole, and they take the fins off and lay it with the skeleton, the tail, and the head. And then people would pick them up very gently and then walk down and put them into the ocean. And they would say, for more to come. And so they put all the heads and tails and the bones into the ocean. And it said the spirit of these then would go out and tell the others how good these humans treat us. So then they would come again and present themselves. So once that whole thing was completed, then you could fish for the whole year.
Wow.
But those were the ta'aun, we call king salmon, we call spring salmon. That's the ones they were catching. But once you did the ceremony, then everybody go home and they'd fish for the rest of the year. So this is what they meant when they said that life is like walking on the edge of a knife blade. You have to be careful, watch your step, because if you don't, you might fall off the world. And what that meant was, it says that when we came into being as people, we were put on a land that looked like us, and we're given a language that sounds like that land. It described all the beings of that place, and we're given ceremony for maintaining that balance. So that balance is that edge of that knife. you fall off, it's because you haven't kept your ceremonies. Then we fall into chaos. So when the church came in, they convinced, that's why they took children, because the children wouldn't know any better. And using fear, they convinced the children that ours is the only valid knowledge. Your grandparents and your parents, theirs is worthless. Only our ceremony is valid because God made us and we have to worship or God will punish us. And yet with ours, it was never about fear. It was never about making yourself small to be humble and this sort of thing. In fact, when I was about 12 years old, this old man took his boys outside. No moon, just a starlit night. And he says, look at that. Looked up at the sky. And he said, when a white man has big troubles, he looks up there and he says, how small my troubles and me are when I look at that. He says, don't ever do that to yourself. When you look up there, you say, that's all my relatives. Now I'm as big as anything. Never make yourself small. Anwai is so big it fills the whole universe, every corner of the universe and every fiber of my being, so it's here. I can't pray for you or pray for you. I'm not a priest. They say, well, he's closer to God, so his prayer is more powerful. It's sort of like the biggest kid can make the biggest demands on his parents. But that's not how it works. We express our gratitude. Thank you for all the things you've given me. Sometimes I need guidance. Sometimes I need to borrow something. Klatska. Sometimes I need the strength to be strong enough to be kind. Sometimes I need that klatska for the courage to be tall enough not to be small. Sometimes I have to have the courage to really look at myself, clear vision so I can see where I've been, to accept the things that I cause, the things that I say. And I ask for guidance because I don't know my way down the trail. It's laid out for me, but I don't know. And so I need that guidance to take me on my trail. And especially I need protection. Protection from what might be in front of me. It might come from behind. It might come from this side, from that side. It might come from up there, or from down here, or it might come from in here. So I ask for protection from those 7 different directions. And then part of the thing says, now it's complete. Thank you for making me human, born of a woman. The Ashu Shogun, say in a light-hearted, joking way. My spirit says so too. And they always end up in a high note. You don't end up serious. You don't begin serious. They would always have a funny story. But when you close your eyes, start praying, your mind closes, because now your reasoning is gone. Your reasoning is gone because you're operating on faith now. If you make a business decision or a life and death decision based just on faith, you may not last very long. So we're told we don't have to believe in anything because everything is. Everything exists. Anwai is there. We always feel it. We know it. It doesn't matter if we believe it or disbelieve it. Believing doesn't make it any more real, and disbelieving it doesn't make it unreal. So we just always know that it's here, that it's inside me. So I don't even have to say the words. When I had a stroke, my dad's older brother, Claude Morrison, he came to see me, and my side was